This is Rock Leach with Social Fire, and in this video, we're going to show you a story from Megan Ashley where she talks about church hurt. I still can't believe that this happened to her, but I want you to take a look and we're going to come back with some commentary. You don't want to miss this video. This video hit home for me for several different reasons. One, it reminds me of the story of my own mother and several of the things that she went through. And I'm going to go ahead and share those things with you. But Megan talks about a level of church hurt that happens too many times in the church that we don't talk about enough. But she also exposes us to a level of protection that exists in the church. So I'm going to go ahead and show you this video, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about it.
Well, you openly speak about your faith and your love for Christ, but when you were 19 and you got pregnant, you said the church dogged you out.
Oh, man.
Did you have any church hurt from that? Did it
Oh,
pull you
yeah.
away from the church? Because I know like a lot of people deal with church hurt,
Oh,
and I feel like people in church can be some of the most critical, judgmental people, and they don't understand the hurt that they caused.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how did you even get back to this? You said you guys can drag me through the mud, whatever, but I know the God I serve. What was that like?
Thank God I had my mother who, my mom was very active at that church, and like she was in a pretty in a decent leadership role. And when I found out I was pregnant, I was so ashamed, and I thought about abortion, and I thought about all types of things. I just was so embarrassed because I was the kid that was like at church. You know what I mean? Like I was on the dance team and I did all the things. So I was so embarrassed, and she made me come to church. She was like, "I'm not ashamed of you. God's not ashamed of you." And she sat right next to me every Sunday on the second row, and she made me sit right next to her. She was like, "We are not ashamed. God gave you that baby. He allowed that baby to be here. So that baby was given to us by God, And so we can be upset about you having sex before marriage. Like we can deal with that. But we're not going to be ashamed that you're bringing this life into the world.
Right.
We're not going to be ashamed of it. And if it wasn't for her, that presence of just sitting next to me and not caring.
Yeah. Oh,
She was like, "This is my baby, and she's having my grandson.
I know that's right.
And we're going to raise this baby in church, and we're going to love on her. And we're, and her and her friends, like one of her closest friends is my children's godmother,
Wow.
Rhonda, who just loved me. She was that person that was a part of church too. And she loved me. She helped me plan my baby shower. She, took me to find bottles, and you know what I mean? Like they
They did what Christians are supposed to do.
Love.
Yes.
Yeah. They didn't take my hardest moment or my biggest fall
Yeah.
or my biggest sin and punish me for it. They loved me through it.
That's beautiful.
So,
I love that.
yeah.
Now, when I look at this, one of the things that I can't ignore is that her mother was there for her. I mean, I think that many times the blessing of us that go to church, like I grew up in the church, so I get it. And I had a mother as well who protected me, and I was highly involved in the church from as long as I can remember, I've been in church. But when we're looking at this right here, is that she had a child out of wedlock as a young person. And I understand because she brought up one word that we don't talk about enough, and that is guilt. Whenever we talk about guilt, and I got to say it again, we got to talk about guilt. There is guilt and there is shame. Guilt is when you hate what you did. Shame is when you hate who you are. And whenever we look at these kind of things, it happens. These kind of things happen, but how the church handles them many times can be bad. Now, she talks about her mother, thanking God for her mother, who basically forced her, you're going to still come to church. You're going to still sit here, but we're not going to be embarrassed about the baby. coming forward. Now we can talk about the actual issue here of having sex out of wedlock and having sex so early and young. But we're not going to be embarrassed. And we got to give a shout out to all mothers out there who cover their children in this regard, covering their children, especially those parents who are not led by the prison of public opinion. They're not locked up incarcerated rather in the prison of public opinion. Those people who are mothers who are a part of churches and don't allow the rumors and the gossip of the church to dictate how they protect their homes. I'm just going to go ahead and say that again. I want to give an outright shout out to those mothers who are protecting their homes. I want to give a shout out there because it's necessary. And, this story, and I'm glad Megan Ashley shared this story because now Megan Ashley is one of my daughter's favorite podcasters. Y'all check out her channel. She's got a really good channel. And shout out to my daughter, Jazz. For turning me on to Megan Ashley because I didn't know who she was before my daughter exposed me to her. But she talks about her relationship with God. And in this video, it got kind of teary eyed and different things of that nature. But it causes me not to ignore the fact that I was raised by a protector like her mother. Shout out to Evangelist Celeria Stinnett Leach, Evangelist Celeria, my mother. And I'm saying that because my mother was a protector. I was raised in the church, and I'm going to go even further. I was raised in the Church of God in Christ. They're in Texas, in the South. So y'all already know many times what that meant. But my mother was a warrior. She was a warrior. Now I'm giving a shout out to her because she, like Megan Ashley, had a child early. She had my brother when she was 16 and had me when she was 17. And then she was the daughter of a pastor and a first lady. Just gonna go ahead and put that out there. So she dealt with not only the guilt and shame of having a child one time at such a young age, but she got pregnant again. And so she had to deal with that again with me. So she was very honest with me, and rest in peace, mama. She was very honest with me. And I thank her for sharing that with me, that she thought about, considered, and even planned to have an abortion with me because she remembered the pain of having a child the first time and didn't want to experience that again. And so she said on her night when she was getting ready, because back then in the city that I stayed in, they didn't do abortions. You had to go to the big city to be able to get an abortion done. And the night she was going to leave in the night, and my grandmother, thank God for a Holy Ghost sanctified grandmother, got up in the middle of the night and told my mother, Celeria, you can go get back in bed. We know we dealt with the first child, and we're going to deal with the second child as well. And that's what stopped me from being aborted. And my mother, down through the years, have always told me, she told me as a teenager, different things like that, Rock, you're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. You have a purpose. And, many times mothers will not, and I think this is a level of transparency that needs to happen more in the household. Mothers will not share many times their lowest points with their children. And I'm thankful that she shared that lowest point with me because I was able to use that lowest point for her as fuel for me at my low points to help me to move forward, to grow and to move forward. And so she went ahead and had me as a child. And then I came here just showing more purpose because the devil was mad when I was born. I came here 9 pounds, 12 ounces, feet first. And she didn't take an epidural, the medicine that they give you. She had me natural. And I told her I came here feet first because I had somewhere to go. And she's in heaven probably laughing because I'm still telling that same joke. But that was not a joke then, because that was a very complicated pregnancy for a big baby, And so I want to say that for people who talk about church hurt, it's not all bad. It is not all bad. One thing we have to remember is that we cannot put all of our thoughts into what's going bad at church. There are some good people in those pews who are looking out for you, who want to know who you are. So one of the problems with church hurt is when you come and become a part of the church and you're not involved in the church. Being at church and not being involved in church. I'm going to say that again. You are at the church, meaning you came to a service, but you're not involved in the church. Listen, I go to Sunday school, go to Wednesday night Bible study, join some women's group, some men's group. Just because you meet one bad apple, don't, because the devil is going to lead that one bad one to you to do something wrong. And it's usually going to happen at your lowest point. But I thank God for protectors because they are there. They are there. And the whole church is not bad. We can't throw the whole church away. And I'm just saying that because many times we use this word of church hurt we use it just arbitrarily. I mean, we just use it for anything. It's just almost like salt and pepper. You're putting it on everything. And we don't need to do that because the church is not all bad. My purpose now is to do like my mother did. And she was a protector in the church. If you came there, and she wasn't always the one who was up front, and she was an evangelist, she was a missionary, but her favorite work was to catch people who were at their worst, who were dealing with guilt and shame. And because she had dealt with that, God had anointed her to recognize it on people. And she would always come with love. And, they talk about that sanctified hug you get in church. My mama would catch you with that sanctified hug before you left. Y'all know that one they hug you and get to talking and praying for you while they hugging you, and before you know it, it done got you broke down. She was gifted with that, but she knew how to find you where you were because she had been there. She had been to that place where people were. And so God had allowed her to be anointed to find people like that. And sometimes the people that are at their worst are sitting right there in the pews. Just because you're at church don't mean you're perfect. But I wanted to talk about this Megan Ashley story, and I wanted to really look at this because this is something that goes on a lot in the church, not only from people who run into things with pregnancy and different things like that, but people who make a mistake in the church. Now, I can't tell you how many times my mother had to come to my rescue in church, not with hiding me from what I had done wrong, but she came to my rescue in church with knowledge and wisdom for me to understand what was going on and for you to man up and deal with what you did. That's just being real, because my father was definitely in my life as well. I was blessed with a very good biological father, but I was also blessed with a very good stepfather as well. Shout out to my biological father, Lindsay Alexander, and just being careful about saying the first and last name, but I don't care. Great people. And shout out to my spiritual father, not my spiritual father, because I have those as well, but my stepfather, who is in fact a spiritual father as well, David Senior. We'll just say that because my biological had passed on, but my stepfather's still living, and I call him Dad. I call him Dad. I don't do that stepfather stuff because he's responsible and took the responsibility of being a part of a rock leech's life when it wasn't popular. And so I thank God. For him, but I thank God for them and that team of people who are protectors. All of them are protectors, and they exist inside of the church. And so this church hurt, the whole church is not bad. I do want to repeat that. The whole church is not bad. When you come into church and you're trying to be sensitive to church hurt, the enemy will use anything to show you church hurt. When you need to be coming there to be focused on Jesus. If you are focused in on Jesus, then the negative things don't so much matter because your focus wasn't that. It's like going to work. You're on your way to work. You're trying to get to work and you see a wreck. You see somebody getting hurt on the side of the road. You see somebody with a flat tire. You see somebody homeless. You see all these things on your way to work, but you can't lose sight of where you're going. I hope y'all. Woo. You listen. You can't lose sight of where you're going. When you come to the house of God, you can't lose sight of where you're going. And because of the journey it took for you to get to God's house, that ought to give you a level of praise when you get there. The reason that we praise God, and I feel good, the reason that we give God praise is because our praise is preoccupied with who He is and what He's done, and it focuses on His incomparable character and on His mighty acts on behalf of His children. So we can't even give God praise without a testimony in mind. When you're giving God praise, it's not predicated upon who's going to do wrong to you, because that's not about what your praise. That's not what your praise is about. Your praise is about Jesus and His goodness and His incomparable acts that He's done for not only you but for other people. That's what we give God praise for. So I want to know ultimately, and we're going to be hitting these church hurt videos from time to time. I want to know what you think about it. I want you to jump down in the comment section and let me know what you think about this church hurt. And if there's somebody who you know is a protector and you don't mind dropping their name in the comments, go ahead and put it down there in the comments, so we can bless them. And let's go ahead and like those comments in the comment section of those who've been protectors in church, those who've been in the house of God and they've been there loving on people, been there caring about people, because we can always always give attention to the pastors who are doing wrong, false teachers and all that. But let's give a shout out to the people who are in the trenches showing love, in the trenches loving on you and letting you know, even though you made a mistake, God still got you. I still love you, and we not gonna cast you out. I never in my life understood a family that want to put somebody out because they did wrong. That's just giving them to the devil. I want you to put them down in the comments. Let's give a shout out, and let's make this real positive about people who are doing well. The church is not bad. There are toxic people in the church, but it's not full of toxic people. Let's just go ahead and be real about that. I want you to get in the comments, make that comment, because I feel good about all these great people that we finna put in the comments. I want you to jump in the comments and let me know what you think about this whole video. Let me know your thoughts. Let's go.